guy's always late. You know, I don't know that we should take him bucked seriously because he's always late, like a minute, 2 minutes. But he was over there at the Universe Unveiled hanging out with the ladies, which is where most of y'all should still be if they're still going, which is cool because I just got a few things to talk about. We're going to try to make it quick because we've got a busy afternoon, actually. Got to get Charlotte to work, and we've got the Mars panel and all of those things coming up. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to put a little song up, let Universe Unveiled finish, let everybody kind of trickle in here, and then we'll say what's up. Let me get Rumble going. Start stream, baby. Did I label it right? I labeled it right. Got the new logo up too on Rumble. There we go. Everybody's rocking and rolling. What's up, y'all? Listen, I'm going to play the song. Y'all know the song. Thanks for popping over, but take a breath from the show. And this is going to be like a half-hour one, I think. We're going to have a little chat. You know, we may bleed a little more than that. But we're going to talk about mainly at the end of the day, the twisted, rambling thing I've been grabbing the past couple hours since I heard something that inspired it, you know, is going to be essentially about nature, right? The power of nature and God or spirit, you know, whatever word everybody out there likes to use. What matters is that we're talking about something, a power is a word I learned from AA, but I like to say a consciousness that is outside of you, a power greater than you, you know. My friend S.B. Flint has taken to just saying Chuck, you know, it's whatever, right? But to the song, everybody, we're going to talk about nature, and we're going to try to get some sort of specifics. Yeah, Mars panel later. About you know, look, everybody says nature's, you know, where you connect. Nature's how you find God, and nature's this, and nature's this. It's great, right? But that's like all you hear. So we're going to talk like some specifics, like what I did and what I found in it when life was like beating the shit out of me, you know, and I didn't know what was up and what was down. And we're gonna bramble on about that for just a minute. Here's your song that we must say over there at the Universe Unveiled, the lovely, the one, the only Sarah. I saw in a post, JT, what's up, JT, if you ever see any of these, Lewis, earlier today, he grouped us all together. And he didn't, you know much about Sarah's background. And I was going to pipe in there. I was going to all right, Sarah's like the female me, and Jacqueline's like the female Ricardo. But it's not quite that black and white. But, you know, she handles the, what's the word they use? Woo side of things. Well, she is responsible for this song. Let's give her all a, that's right, Sarah gets a massive, you know, stand up. Out of your seats just a little. Yeah, all right. Now then, here's the music. See you in a second, guys.
Bare feet kicking red Alabama clay. Jacob at my side, we walk the old way. Spirit called me out of the dark in the grave. Reborn on a new path, ain't no looking back. Barefoot stomping through the pine and the briar. Running what the floods left buried in the fire. Finding things within
One more time for Sarah. And her absolute I'll tell you all what I told her when she sent that to me, which was, I don't know what to say. And sometimes that is the best compliment. So I'll probably leave it there, that it leaves me speechless. And step outside for a second, check on what's going on out there. And I was listening to it, and I was looking at all this Hernando de Soto metal, so much of it from all these years, and I was looking there at all these, artifacts. I mean, I have them everywhere, from stone to pottery, and in that second, you can kind of, zoom back to standing in that same spot right out there not too long ago, when it was just me, just me and my dragon, God, Chuck, whatever, and not knowing what was ahead, barely cognizant of what was behind, still just trying to grasp what I had, before I got snatched off by life to central Alabama, to the antediluvian side, the older side of all of this story. But I'm listening in the song there, and she's talking about Chief Tuscaloosa, and I'm just standing there in that moment, because it's not long ago, y'all, that nobody knew about me or what I found or anything, and life was fierce, thorny, as we alluded to in my last little spiritual talk with you guys, and that's where I think is a good launching point, connect point, and the difference we're going to talk about this week. But to finish that thought, and I'm standing there sort of jumping from this moment, listening to this song by my most beautiful friends, not even a good word, soul sister, is narrowing in a little bit, but sister is probably just the simplest, Sarah. And that song, and it's like being able to jump dimensions, y'all. When you can experience something so radically, sort of different within a fairly short amount of time. I mean, sure, we're talking when it was 2018, when all this in my life, got initiated, right? Like, really. But still, we're talking, just 2, 3 years, 4 years ago, and then being able to stand here with that song playing while I was getting ready to come talk to you guys, that's it's like dimension jumping, it gives you a radical perspective on how radical change can be, how radical of a change can be achieved when you lean in to God, to a life guided by whatever your power greater than you, that is outside of you, is. The degree of change is very much like hopping dimensions. I dare say it is hopping dimensions, and it's completely possible. I just did it. I just came in to talk to y'all from doing it. I was standing there looking at all this DeSoto metal that I've collected over all these years with my fucking hands, when nobody knew what the fuck it was and people were telling me it wasn't. And then I learned out, oh, they're criminals. They're trying to hide that I found it. And then I keep going. And then before you know it, when I've got all this huge mystery that everybody's been looking for all piled up, life goes, all right, fuck. God says, box it up. I'm like, all right, box it up. Shit, where are we going now? Thrown up here, look around. What's all this? What are these big fucking rocks? What's that doing? Why is there a circular metal deposit? Holy shit, Jason, how did you not see Atlantis? Life change that's possible. And what we're going to talk about today is some of the beginnings of that. And we did that last time, it was a couple of weeks ago when I did this, but we talked about thorns, right? My learning to explore and getting out there in thorns and then just pushing myself, as far as could be, and then getting to where I thought was as far as could be pushed to realize I had at least that far still to go. Taking a breath, all right, I can do this. And doing that again, and then that being an allegory for all the actual shit and fucking fire and trials I was going through at that time in my own personal life and to my own woundings, to my egos and myself and my fucking life, everything, family, right? Literal house burned to the ground twice. You know what I'm saying? But there was something else that was found in nature, and it was hit upon today. And if you look at the description of this, you'll see the only bit of formula I have for this little talk we're going to have. And it was said in a prayer, another piece of content I was watching this morning. And it, the context was people who they're praying for. People like to generally, let's do it this way, pray for like light, like God's light, right? Okay, well, what does that mean? Does that mean light up everything, truth of everything, And the idea is like, no, that's fucking overwhelming. And so the idea that was presented quite brilliantly, it seemed, and on the moment, in this prayer was, please give me your headlight, your headlamp, because what that does is that focuses a light just on the ground in front of your feet, right? And y'all ever use a headlamp at night? Another reason that stuck with me was in the beginning in all of this, when I was out in all these creeks. Just beginning to find things that, whatever, my little inexperienced self playing, and that's where I'm trying to get to, playing in nature. But we'll let this intro try to keep going. When I was out there with these headlamps, because at night was often, there was the time, right? Be it because of my children, or because that's just when, everything else was off. But I'd go down there and I'd have campfires, and I'd do my connecting. And I'd have a little headlamp, and I'd get off in those creeks. And, the creeks are real shallow, about like this. And so you're seeing down perfectly through this clear water, right? Lightning bugs off on either side, So you're always wanting to, turn that headlight off and just look around and go, oh, shit, what did the natives have, man? That we have lost, and then you open that back up and get back to the rocks. Now, at that point, right, all I knew was I had seen some rocks, and Chuck, my dragon god, was telling me there's human hands on these rocks, It's pretty, it's easy if you're just free from objective, if your life is completely shattering you, and you go out by this fire, by this creek, to connect to your power that you're putting everything on now that you've made conscious connection, and you're going to free yourself from any fucking narrative about your life. Disengage, disassociate, but not in the negative way, from the narrative of all the shit, the thorns in your life, right? And so now there I am, back there with my headlamp, looking at these rocks going, there's a mystery here, okay? I hadn't heard about this. I hadn't heard about, there's a mystery here. And that was enough. Because I could keep my curiosity engaged and I could keep my mind engaged. And yes, while I was doing that, the only word is prayer, but I don't use that because I'm not even a big fan of public prayer, and when I'm asked to do it, I'll usually do it just to shock people. Like, God, we don't know what the fuck's going on, but if you would please just fucking make it clear, Because when you're at the level here I'm talking about, right? It's what you're doing all day when you're trying, as I was, to embrace and make that connection a walkable, not just a meditative thing, an all the time thing, a 24-hour, in your head. Hey, what the fuck is that? Well, you haven't seen one of those before? Well, no, So I don't use prayer. It's dialogue. Dialogue is generally better than prayer, but it was a good prayer this morning with the headlamp. So we get back to that, and I'm there, and I'm chasing this mystery, right, that led to where I could never see. Not only Mabilla, but through following these small rocks, right? Build your house on rocks, not sand, right? But through following these small rocks. But then after Mabilla, when I got to box that up and keep on fucking moving, then I apply the same lessons, y'all. Because listen, when you're there in that headlamp and you're just holding rock after rock, I'm not keeping. Now I was keeping a lot in those days. Not only was it a workout, but I just take them home and clean them off. Cut them in two. That's all. See, just learn, right? So each one you're just flash in front of you and holding in your hand, it's cataloging. You're just like taking data, like AI tries to do fakely, but like humans can do. You're just, so imagine just years of that, okay? So those observational, abilities were then just zoomed onto big rocks, I get up Central Alabama and I'm like, there's big rocks everywhere. Let's go look at these. These are fucking weird. Look, there's markings on them. Let's go over here. What's this? It's an Indian mound. Wait a minute. It's all made of rocks too big for the natives to lift, and there's drill holes on it. Damn. And it just kept scaling up. But it all started with this headlamp. And this moment where I didn't know what was going on because I was escaping the thorns. But I could zoom in on the moment, and this is where that prayer was going, was give me the headlight. Because it keeps you here and now, which is the only place. It's the only place God is, and it's the only place a human being can functionally be and process and work with everything in its right place. Right? We've talked about how I keep my mind open. The other thing I said besides the headlight, and here's what I started this with the quote, was in my tool bag, I'll have the headlamp, right, of God, and I'll have the hat of I don't know anything, right, or the headlamp of now, and the hat of I don't know anything, right, because part of all of this process was me doing just that to my understanding of reality, right, and I learned to apply that to everything. When you learn to strip yourself from your personal objective, because that was the only your personal narrative, because that was the only way to get anything through, let alone your life, but your fucking soul, your spirit, to bring anything through that, was to be able to get in the now, completely disengaged. And then you can do that with all the other narratives you've been handed, And then there's something that happens. It can be achieved in nature, but I've also learned to do it just about anywhere. You can be somewhere, and you can be so disengaged, right? You can get so disengaged from it with eyes wide open and still fully functional, right? That you see it all so new, as though you had just been dropped there, vaporized there from nowhere. You honestly, if somebody asked you, it would take you a second or two to be able to tell them where you were. Now, as soon as they did, you'd be able to tell them where you were more precisely than they could even think of, right? But you can find this level of consciousness, right, where it's like you don't even know where you are, and anything is possible. Because as I was saying, we got into this conversation last time too about the reason for that state of mind, right? For what I call the have started calling the hat of we don't fucking know anything, right? Was you're not limiting every time you decide and know something, right? Or every time you worry about the future, right? Or bemoan about the past, you are putting limiters on the now, right? It's like at the quantum level when they get the observer, they pick a state, but before it's just all fucking potential. It's everything and anything and nothing, you know. So putting limiters on reality, right, is what I was trying to remove. Once I started seeing that, okay, so they've lied to me. They've even lied to me in church about God, right? It is like Christ and many others have said, there's personal contact available, there's a guided life available, you know. And then you start really just leaning into that, and you really you learn in a visceral way, right? You learn in your own visceral way through your own experience that things are not as we are told, whatever way that you've been through, that does that for you. Well, I then found it pretty valuable, and the only way, again, I survived really, and was able to then learn the wisdom through was to remove any knowing, any certainty I had about just about anything other than God, Spirit, right? Anything that had flesh or was made of any part of this world, and anything I'd been told from any of that, I just vominosed, right? And you look at it fresh. All right, that's enough about that. Let's get to the fun part. Where all this started. Just getting out in nature. People say that a lot, right? Now I go to state parks a lot, and I'm in all these groups, and you see everybody, hey, I hike, or I paddleboard, or everybody's got their thing they do in nature. You know what I mean? What I found was saved my life was and really is the kernel behind all of this. And what I still do is I found yo, Sarah, thanks for popping over. Great show today. Is I find it's like a sense of play, right? With my higher power as the accompaniment, and this sandbox, this garden that was made for me. Now, I expect you, right, if you're applying this when you're out there, to feel the same. I don't mean me. I mean, all of us, right? But that's the feeling you're going for when you're out there, and this works really, can do it anytime, but it works to practice alone, right? Just like praying or whatever your word is for that, And this goes back to many words of Christ, right? How often do you was it said, be like these, you must be like the children to enter, right? And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because we can talk forever about what that means, I know I can. But we're going to stay with this play and where it started, right? And so coming out of the city, whatever the civilization, and getting out into these woods, y'all, it was like rediscovering being a kid in many ways at first. It was just the pure joy. There's a rainstorm. I'm going to the creek with my float because it'll be fast enough and deep enough and it's fucking fun. And I'd really go do it. You know what I'm saying? I'd go. It was a blast. So I was 40 going on 15, And the water's so clear. And when it's hot, it's so cold, and only in spots does it get like 4 feet deep in most of these creeks, But like most of the time, it's like 2 feet at best, So just enough for you to lay down and completely be submerged, right? Laying on these rocks that you're looking at and playing. And what that does when you've got your perfect. See, there's another thing. When you're heading into the woods, let's just do it this way. When I'd head into the woods, first of all, how do you get there, get in this mindset, right? Get a stick. Just find a stick. There'll be a stick, okay? I'm telling you, there'll be a stick, okay? Find the stick. Watch out for spiders. Spiders are gatekeepers, okay? So spiders are a great sign, but, start by showing them the respect of just kind of dodging around them and maybe give them a head nod, going, good to see you're still doing your job, right? Keep walking, you see a tree that catches your attention. It's got a beautiful branch. I want to go see what it looks like. Hello. Hey, Bob. I'm naming you Bob. No, you're not Bob. You're Edward. You're definitely an Edward, all right? Good to see you, Edward. Go give Edward a little tap, you know? Keep walking. Is that a snake? That's a snake. Oh, well, you all know that the treasure you seek lies past your dragon, right? The snake's a good sign. You got to stop him. Where are you headed, dude? No, you first, man. You know, you go ahead. Carry on, right? He'll slither out his way. Tell your buddies I said hey and to fucking not bite me, please. See you later. You keep now. Oh, you say at the very beginning, I'd say I'm talking about the woods, Sarah, okay? I'm not gonna get on you for your rules in the house. All right? I can't get on my daughters either. They know to call me and I'll go just grab him and take him out. You know? But there's certainly no condemnation for what's done in the house. But what I'm trying to express, I think you probably know quite well what I'm trying to express, right? Is you have this attitude of this kid in a garden that was made for him, right? And you've got the right attitude with it. None of it's gonna hurt you. It's all there for you, and it's all conscious and sentient, right? And I'd always start with this prayer, right? It was roughly to all things here. Have ever been here, ever will be here. Thank you for sharing the space. My name is Jason. Give me the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the ability to know anything that you would have me to. Thank you. And I'd say, Father, because, you know, that's how Christ told us to refer to God. And I'd say, thank you, Father, right? Yeah, fucking off with my barefoot ass through the woods and the snakes. You know what I mean? Getting my stick, you know. Sticks are good for many things. Not only do they help when the rocks and the creeks get a little, you know, your feet, you need a little extra help, but also should a snake be unruly? You know what I mean? I'm kidding. I've never had to use a stick on a snake. Never once. Never. Never. Never had. I've seen so many, y'all. I mean, and like they're on the driveways in this neighborhood, but I've never had an issue. But let me not get off track here, because we're getting at half an hour. What I'm going for is you can see this image now of this free child, right? Playing in nature. And now that's just the walk in, right? That's how I would just get engaged with it. There were trees, y'all. There were some beautiful trees, and there was one in particular that I'd take a rock to every day. I treated it like a big bonsai. You know what I mean? I'd clear away the pine straw, right, from the roots, because the roots were pretty tremendous too. You know what I mean? And every day I headed in, I'd grab another rock, you know, and set it out there, you know. And so now he's got a big, pretty pile of rocks, you know, worked around his roots, right? It's that kind of thing. There's no reason for any of that. You know what I mean? It's not part of any of these typical, oh, we're going to nature to do this thing, right? You're just going in like the fucking kid, engaging properly with this garden that was created for you, you know? And then you get there, and here's the part I really wanted to get to, because for me it was really key. All of that is powerful, right? But then, because there's so much going on in life, you need that headlamp. You need that real zoom in, you know what I mean? And I like the creeks around here, really all of Alabama, you know, but especially there were some around here that are they're just on that borderland, kind of like Corn Creek, and all north there, even smaller ones between where the big rocks start, you know, and here in the mound territory and the earth and the plains and the creeks with all the little rocks. It's like on the borderland, you know. And I could go there, and not only could I have that cold, refreshing water to just sort of, you know, zap me into it, but then in that micro environment, I could zoom in like I was a kid, and I could start moving rocks and start changing the flow of water, you know. I could start like making waterfalls, you know, and zooming in on like the little aspects of it, like, oh, that little bit of the stream is flowing that way. Whoa, what if I put a rock here and now it's, oh, now look, it's really splashing. Now it's pretty, you know. And you just really zoom in on those micros while out in the big play box, nature, right? And then for me, yes, that transferred into what you see behind me, into to the big rocks, to everything you see me presented on. But it started in that micro environment and the power that when I could zoom in on a rock, when I can zoom in on, it's like it was like a connection with God when you're like making your own little bits of nature, right? Because it's kind of like you're like, you can go, I'm seeing it from a creator perspective. Like you make rivers, I'm making a river. And you could really dam the whole thing up and move it a whole another way, and just do that, to do it. Now, that's a lot of things, right? It's led to a lot of things, both within and without. But where it started was with play that I needed to save my life. Connection that I needed to save my life. Save my soul. That's why, into the forest I go to lose my mind and to save my soul. Right? I mean, that's why it's not going to show it if I do that, but that's why I painted that with my hands when I started doing what I'm telling you right now. Because I was like, oh shit, this is it. This is what this means. Bye bye. My hat of we don't know shit. We don't know anything, right? And my headlamp of now. Because if I'd have focused on what was going on in the periphery of my life, with my family being ripped apart, and y'all shit I don't even feel like talking about, truly ripped apart, right? Out there with my headlamp and now and my hat of I don't know anything, I found safety, and I found a micro environment, and I found connection by playing. You see? There was that's what the world would call that. But what was it really? It was saving my life, and it was laying the foundation for everything that I could not even fucking envision. Honestly, y'all, literally with that headlamp on and rocks in my hand, when I was past the point of connecting and meditating and I wanted to go back to the fucking fire, I was tired, I literally ask, what is it with the fucking rocks? Like, I trust you on everything, but God, fucking, what is it with the rocks? And I'd hear, you just gotta trust me on the rocks, okay? Stay with them. Okay. We've been talking about Enoch lately, and, that's what the Watchers, that's where they fucked up, right? Because God said, I got a plan here with human beings. Don't you fucking worry about it, okay? But there's a plan. And I'm more worried about that than you. In fact, you go there and you work for them. All right? I don't care if they don't know about you. But you work between me and them, and you take care of them, right? And they're all like, but why? Why are these? Why? I don't see. I don't understand. Why? And God's like, it's none ya. Need to know, bitches. And you don't need to know. And then, like in Enoch, a bunch of them went, oh, fuck that. Right? Ain't no kind of plan that makes these things better than us. God has done lost it, y'all. Let's look at those ladies. They're pretty. We can manifest bodies, Let's come on. Shit, while we're down here, let's teach them how to do some cool shit. God says they're gonna be like us. Hell, let's help get them there. Haha, they can't. That's like the Watchers mess up, right? But see, with us, it's pretty clear. Focus on now. It doesn't matter what tradition you want to look at. Yes, in the Bible, it's very clear. In fact, the only thing God calls himself is I am. Moses is all, well, who do I say? Who do I tell them told me? I am. Okay. Not I was, not I will be, right? from there, it's all clear that now Eastern Buddhists, what are they trying to do now? So in nature, in what today, y'all? Now today, because I'm not trying to escape, not you know what I mean, the thorns, because life has reached. It's not the cycle's not completely closed, but it's at a completely, as I just described at the beginning, another dimension, right? I still do the same though. I still force myself to do the same, even on a day where I'm like, I don't have to today. There's nothing forcing me to, there's nobody hating me in this world, or there's no, my children are being taken, my house is burning. That's what I mean. So you still have to kind of like just extra mental push on some days. But I still do that because it still gives me the exact same thing. Now it's combined blessedly with the work. Now that I've found all that I've found from being out there and learning how to connect and learning how to listen and learning how to be led, right? But to this day, and that's the other blessing of Jacob loving the water, being the otter, is because I don't, he wants to go with me to that 2 feet of water, 3 feet of water, and just sit. A couple of little reeds beside you that if you get your eyes down at level and pretend you're on a little boat, they're like trees and rocks so big with waves that are really only about, a foot and a half of their white caps. And when you get down on it and you get in there to where they're zooming through, it's like you're, your own little boat navigating. You zoom in on these micro environments and you learn something about your perception. You learn something about consciousness. And then also, if you're willing, you learn something about an inkling of what God, of what the creator, of what that spirit or anybody across the veil even might see, right? And how this might all be to them, and the potentiality and the unlimitedness that really hides behind every veneer of solidity, right? That all reveals itself in this play, this undirected, connection. That's really what I'm trying to do here. Is instead of just saying connect in nature, I'm really trying to just sort of give you a little bit of a blueprint of what so all I can do is my experience, and that's a big part of it. Even when I'm just out to explore, I mean, oftentimes time is limited, because budget and location and shit, and you know what I mean. And I'm trying to film, right? But even then, I make sure to find that minute where I can just disengage from it all and play, and yes, Jacob helps with that because that's his favorite thing. Is to say, fuck it all, we're going to play in the water, man. But because I learned that it's in there that this connection, this peace, this ability for my soul to be present, therefore my ability to see reality objectively and clearly and zoom in and zoom out and understand micro and macro and get out in it all. It all is in that play. I think, whenever Christ was speaking, he couldn't know what the fuck was going to make it down or anything. So, it's probably anything that he was saying to groups, he was like probably hoping, okay, this is pretty important. This better trickle down. And is this idea of being like the child, right, is important. It's just important. It's key, right? And so this idea of play then also becomes key. And then this freedom that comes with you experiencing it as though it is there for you. That's why everything is there. So you damn sure better say hello to the tree. He showed up. He materialized for your beautiful walk, And in there, that kid takes over and everything else dissolves. and the connection can be strengthened without even trying to. And that's what I know about nature. And that's where we'll expound further upon this, aptly not mine, in a prayer today. I saw put the headlamp. I added of now. They're praying for like God, your light. No, your headlight. Your headlamp. I just a step in front of me is all I need to see. Just a step in front of me, just now. And I mean that's constantly my prayer to as well. Back in AA, they used to, you say the Serenity Prayer, right? And I had an addition to the Serenity Prayer whenever I just said it to myself, every day around a fire, right? And I had an addition, and it was, just for today, right? Like just answer these things and give me these things just for today. I'll see you again tomorrow morning, and we'll talk about it then. It's key. It's key. And we're going in 45 minutes, and I've said I'll appear elsewhere, and I have to get Charlotte to work. But yeah, it's when you've got things on you, things that constantly want to pull you to the future, and want to torture you in the now. This is the surest way I found. It's the surest way every time I found. Is to get out in there and play in it. Play with him, Think long, think wrong. We got a long day of podcasting ahead, everybody. We're going to do the Mars panel at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then Ricardo and I are going to do some reading this evening. I think we're going to close out the paper on Atlantis. And yeah, there you go. Hey, sorry, back. Yes. Well, inspired by the same there. Thank you, Jacqueline. But yeah, I loved that idea of that headlamp because it just, as it happened to be, exactly what I was using when I learned to fucking stay with now. There's hurricanes out there. I know. I was in them. But fucking stay in now. Go play in now. And then once you get to the other side of that hurricane, buddy, you got some fucking power in you then. Right? Because then those things you learn to do, it's a short window when people got hurricanes in their lives. Like fucking big ones. You know what I'm saying, man? So, but like in there is a window to fucking get some power. And I got it by going out and playing with my higher power in his creation that he put there for me to do just that. Right? While outside, every fucking bad thing you could just about wish on a person was just zooming right along. All right. Now, with some bumps and bruises and enough just to put my ego where it fucking needed to be, relying on him, I rode that bumpy motherfucker, right? Sometimes it was like, where the fuck? How the hell am I going to get out of this one, But there's the bomb. It's starting to blow up. Oh, there's a helicopter. Shit. So, boom, on the safe ground, new territory. Nobody could find me, It's like, it was like that at times. But it all was held together by this playing in nature. And it's still to this day, every day I can, every time you see a video from me, fucking Mount Chiha, you bet there was a moment where Jason found some water, some rock, and he was just sitting there playing around like he was a little fucking kid, watching the birds fly overhead, pretending they were just circling for him, you know what I mean? My own little garden. Because that's the power I found in that hurricane. And rap, once that hurricane's gone, and you can do that shit, well, now you have found something that not everybody has found, and that's the power of these storms in our lives, is that when we go, okay, thing outside of me, everybody says, and you said that if I fucking walk with you, you get me through this shit. So it's on you, motherfucker. Make it clear. Let's go. Let's get through it, right? I mean, that was that was a paraphrasing of my own, right? And then you get through that thing you thought you'd never get through, that you could not see a way through. And it may or may not look like you thought it was going to look, but you get through it and you're fine. And you then shortly realize you're far better than before. Because while you were in that storm, you were picking up things you didn't even know you were picking up while you were playing, while you were being like that child. Well, you're going, all right, my dad said he's got this shit. He said he made a garden. He said I could go play in the garden. And he said that's what I needed to do, was go play in the garden, connect with him, and that he'd fucking handle the idiots outside, rock and roll, you know? It's like a child. And then when, you know, you needed to go do something or say something out there, he'd tell you what and when. And he'd be like, all right, man. He's like, yeah, I'm going with you. All right, cool. You go to that place to say that thing where you think, you know, it's going to be some weird nerve-wracking something. Somebody there is angry with you. You know, you show up. He's like, man, just go right out the creek. Just go. Don't worry about it. Go like you know, all right. You walk in there, and all of a sudden that person's just walking out of their office. Hey, Mr. Hoffman, high-fiving you. Hey, I got another meeting. I got to run, but don't worry about it. You know, okay. You go back to the creek? Yeah, let's go. Right. It all starts with playing in nature. All right, everybody. We're at 48 minutes. I hope everybody has a wonderful Sunday. I love the Sunday news. We have the Sunday service here. Check us out. We're going to do some Mars stuff here in a bit, and later on, we're going to do a little talk about a lost epoch of human civilization. One old Enoch was running around back and forth between the Watchers and God going, why the fuck am I in the middle of this shit? And on that bombshell, please remember that our best future requires the truth of the past. Remember that you're loved, and remember to go play in nature with your micro environment when you can. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Love you. Thank you, everyone. KD, what's up? Scribed, Matt, Sarah. Sarah says, who has brownies? I totally ignored y'all, didn't y'all? Well, thank you, KD. That's kind of all we were doing today. I was inspired and, you know, felt like whatever. And there was a topic that needed to be talked about briefly. And there it was. We talked a little further about what one finds in nature outside of the matrix. It's what it all sort of boils down to, right? We're always talking about the problems with the systems and with the societies and with what it does to us and our heads and our minds and our ways of being. Well, guess where that's not, you know? That's really what it boils down to. All right, guys, I'll see you on all the other shows. I wanted to just take a minute and say hello to everyone, and thank you very much, as always. You guys being here, especially even when I'm just doing these, you know, watching the chat fly up, even if I'm trying to get the thoughts so I don't take a second to get over. It's company, you know what I mean? I know you're here, and that makes all the difference, and it makes me more confident to just sit here and share, right? So I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week. It looks like we're cooling down, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got the girls here this weekend, but next week they're back to their mothers, back to school. We're going to have cooler weather. I talked to the guy that runs Coosa River Adventures. You guys saw me paddle down last time when it was flooded. And listen, y'all, to the tragedy of that, there was a guy this weekend that died right there at Corn Creek, where you're always seeing me do these videos. I just got the full story. He was a quarterback for a local college that just transferred here from, like, you know, the north state in, like, North Alabama, and he's a freshman or whatever, and they took him to Corn Creek, and it's like I'm always telling y'all, man, when you go during the week, this place is fucking it's literally one of the most beautiful rivers in the entire nation, okay? Like, no joke. All right. Now, when it's down where it's supposed to be, but it's shallow water. It's crystal clear. You can. Last time I was out there, you know, on like Friday, I mean, there's a guy with a snorkel just diving down. He was there for trash, but you know, just staying forever because it's very shallow. You see me walk to this island. All right. Well, on the weekends when they flood it, it's terrible. Every creek becomes just backlog mush, right? Because the water rises up so much, and the water flows there on the Coosa so fast at Corn Creek. My own daughters, right, guys? One of the my own daughters. We used to go there during the week all the time. This is many years ago, and then we went there on the weekend once, and they had floats, and they ran down there first, and they got in the water. They were gone. They were screaming. I mean, I had to run down. Luckily, somebody else pulled them up. But somebody died there this week because of same said reason, and it's really tragic that people go there when it's normal, and then on the weekends they open the dam, and it's just I'm just so against it. It does what it does to nature, and now you see what it does to people. It's sad. It's tragic. Young man was just down here, y'all. Come down to fucking start as a quarterback, and they were just going out for somewhere fun. I mean, usually this place is some of the most beautiful, as you see in my videos, and fun places to go. But when they open that water, it's both ugly and deadly, But I hope to get back down this week. The Coosa River Adventures was closed this week. This is their week off. They wanted to get a little rest and get on the water. I saw them out when I was on the island on their boat. But I'm going to try to get back down this week with the water level down, so you guys can actually see closer to what the natives would have saw. We might can investigate some of these islands that are very burial moundy and certainly covered with artifacts. Either that or my goal as soon as the weather is just about like it's going to be this week. 90s are fine. Just this humidity gone. I want to get to a couple of new sites on some rocks that I've located. Big, you know what I mean, big antediluvian stuff. So something like that out of me this week. We'll see how it goes.